Okay, welcome to a SMITE God Guide review thing. So this is the first one of these that I'll be doing, and I plan on doing more than a few of them, this one being the first one. And so I'm just going to be doing it in alphabetical order. I thought about doing it in release order, or production order, as in, you know, this guy was made first and followed by him, followed by her, followed by her, followed by it. But I decided that the most logical way to do it would be alphabetical order. This is also convenient because Pele's coming out, and I plan to do quite a few of these just because I have nothing better to do. So Pele's going to be down the line anyways, which means I'll be able to get a few gods in before I end up hitting a snag where a new god comes in back in the line, at which point I'll jump back, review the new god, and then go from there. So here we have Achilles. Now, Achilles is a warrior. You should be knowing all these basic information about him. He's a physical damage warrior. He's considered average in terms of difficulty, and I could see that being reasonable, but at the same time I could see him being categorized as easy, and his abilities are the reason why I would do that. So with his passive, Gift of the Gods, you can switch between bonus health and protections, or get rid of those for additional movement speed and physical power when you're in the fountain. So to swap, you just left click, basic attack button, whatever you might switch it to. I don't know why you would, but whatever you might. In fountain, and you can switch. So when he has his physical protections and health, it looks like this. And then what you saw a moment ago where the armor is gone, which he might puff it out again, get rid of that again. That's this movement speed, physical power. There you go, right there. So I guess that's important. Especially in terms like of a arena. In arena, you typically start with more protections and then end with more power and speed. But that's honestly preference. In Conquest, you want to do the opposite if you're doing a jungle Achilles. If you're doing solo Achilles, you want to do health and protections. So those are things you want to keep in mind when you're playing as Achilles. Alright, so for his first ability, it is in fact a cone. So he's going to hit this cone and it has a slight delay on it. So just be aware of that. And it's actually 2 cones. So you do inflict a lot of damage, and yes, I guess you get a good 1 second stun out of it. You don't get any additional time on the stun, and so the force of his punch continues to radiate past this initial target area, dealing 70% damage. So if you're right up in an enemy's face and you hit them with this thing, it's going to do all of the power. But if they're outside the first cone, within the second cone, then you're going to do 70% of the full damage you would have done before, and it has a 15-second cooldown, which is pretty garbage. But you can shorten that with things like Breastplate of Valor and Jotun's Wrath. So not exactly an issue. Next, you have a self buff. So you get a CC reduction, physical power, and protections, and you also heal yourself when you damage people with your abilities. So you might want to press this and maybe hit them with your shield to initiate, which I'll probably demonstrate in jungle practice or something here in a moment. But that's sort of the thing you want to get around to figuring out how to manage him, is you want to be able to use his buff and his passive in conjunction with each other with your abilities. So he's a very flowy type god, which I think is why they put him as average, because he's not difficult, he's not super easy, sort of like a, let's say, low skill floor, reasonably high skill ceiling, because I'm pretty sure if you get really good with him, you can be unstoppable. So let's see, yeah, he gets the heals per ability, and his heals are reasonable. For some reason, High-Res is afraid of putting heals in the game, but that's okay, make do with what you got, right? So let me adjust the mic. You get additional power, protections, crowd control reduction, and cooldown is at 10 seconds, which is honestly also trash, but again, you can get cooldown reduction items like Breastplate or Jotun's Wrath, and you're good. Next are the combat dodge, and this is more important than anything else. Most of his abilities are pretty cut and dry, but this one is very situational. So you get 2 dodges, I believe. I believe it's 2. Yeah, can use this ability once more before it goes on cooldown, right? So, you can hit a god with the combat dodge, and there's this little... Athena has a charge up where she shoots a spear out from herself and then she shoots a spear out. This is Achilles. He dodges, does his little dodge thing, and then he gets this spear he can shoot out. Doesn't do much damage. You can see the scaling is meh. Especially when it comes to other tanks or warriors, he's not really going to make much of a scratch. He's more intended for getting in the fight, staying in the fight, because, I mean, he is a warrior after all, so you got to look forward to that. But when it comes to squishies, Achilles can definitely murder squishies, and here's the main reason why. Fatal Strike. Alright, man. This guy got the 3rd execute in the game. Lucky him, if you don't count Scylla's ultimate as an execute. So, this is pretty interesting because it has a very large windup and a reasonably short range. Does it have actually a range in here? It doesn't have a range. It's very short. Oh, yeah, right here. 35 meters. Duh. Or feet. I don't actually know. There's no... Just units. Just units. So you will pass through units, but you will not, or through minions, but you will not pass through gods. So that's something to keep in mind. You will stop on the very first god that you hit. So you want to get really good timing and aim with this ability, especially considering the wind-up. You want to take advantage of that. You will not be able to keep moving when you cast this. As soon as you cast it, Achilles will stop where he is and then attack. Or at least that's how it has been. So we're going to actually be reviewing that. So yes, it's a 30% health threshold, just like Thanatos. I can't say the same for Akwang, but I feel like it's also 30%. It just seems to be the threshold. The interesting thing is that you can keep going every time you kill someone. So as you see right here, Achilles kills a god with his ability. He can use it again up to 5 times, which means you could team wipe. You know, if you got 5 enemies at 30% health, you can kill all 5 of them with your ultimate alone. So, if you want to. The only issue is that he actually has a weakness in his execute, and that is the more times he executes someone, the more susceptible he is to damage, and it stacks up to 5 times, and it is not a joke. 50% more damage is quite a lot considering his base stats at level 20. He doesn't, without items, he's actually not very tanky at all. You do need to get items on him. His protections are not great. So you're going to want to keep that in mind if you're playing as Achilles. You want to try and be careful with the ultimate. You want to have teammates at your back. You don't want to go in alone. I'm sure you can 1v1 certain assassins. You don't want to fight an Arachne. You might not want to fight a Loki, but I'm willing to bet that Achilles could take on a Hunbats or a Kali or something like that. So I wouldn't be afraid of DPSs per se, especially if you're building a tanky Achilles. But when it comes to the ultimate, especially if you get caught out or you miss, an Arachne or even a Ho Yi just locks you down and the rest of the team piles on and you're just dead. This is especially true in team fights. I really like playing him in jungle, so if I could recommend anything, it would be to play him in jungle just because it's fun. I'm sure you're aware of who Achilles is through his lore, and this isn't exactly that kind of video, so I don't think I need to talk about that. But yeah, once again, reviewing his stats at level 20, he's got 2k health, which is pretty standard. Might actually be a little bit low, but he's pretty quick. He's pretty fast for a warrior, and then you can also put him in the no armor mode, and of course items, and I think, yeah, so CC reduction too, so then you're not going to get slowed as much. You know, it balances out. Overall, his physical damage, even if you build Achilles for pure damage, you're not going to see much of a creep in terms of his power. He's not going to snowball. He's not going to do a lot of damage. Achilles' damage comes from consistency, not heavy hitting, hard hitting, instantly hitting abilities. Because on Shield of Achilles, you only get 90% scaling of 300, which sounds like a lot, but when it comes to other warriors and guardians, it's really not. But you will annihilate squishies, which I think is what everybody wants to do anyways. He's got 50% scaling. This one, though, this is your killer right here. 540 plus 100%. If they're not in the execute threshold, you can still one-shot kill them just because of the ability. It just won't count as an execute. So, there you go. Keep in mind, you can also increase his physical power through his passive and through Radiant Glory. So these are all things to keep in mind when you're playing as Achilles. He could 100% definitely be played damage, but you got to be hitting those abilities, and you got to have that timing and the whole setup. You got to kind of know what you're doing, and I really don't recommend foregoing Breastplate of Valor. It's one of my favorite items to build on him personally, just because of the cooldowns. Is it required or necessary? Not particularly, but I still like to have Breastplate on him. But we'll go through build options in a moment. Sort of like a basic warrior build that you can use kind of from pretty much every warrior, even though they're not all the same. And then we'll go over a build that's a bit tankier, a build that's a bit more damage oriented, and we'll see where we go from there. So alright, so here we are in the jungle practice mode, and I'm just going to buff up all of his skills we are an Achilles level 20 with no items. It's fantastic. As you can see, I am in the spawn, and some skins display this worse than others, but you can see I've got some armor on, which means no armor. So currently my passive is activated for the physical power and the movement speed. Click it again. I've got the pauldrons on, so now I am activated for the health and protections bonus. So let's engage these Odins with the health and protections bonus. See if I can show you. Wait, oh, these guys don't attack. So we're gonna go back to. Okay, all right, we're gonna go in here. All right, give me a Neath. All right. Alright, so here you can see Neath is doing her a little bit of damage. She doesn't have any items either, but... So I've taken some damage, my buff is up, and I hit her and you can see that heal. So here's the dodge, there's that little poke with the spear, and the dodge, poke with the spear. It's pretty simple, right? So, okay, you can stop now. Okay, you can stop now. Alright. And you can see that stun in action. It's a very good stun. Okay, can you leave me alone now, bro? Thanks. Okay, so now that we're back, we can take off this armor, and I'll go in and I'll give an example of engaging a little Neath. She's already taken damage. So we'll go in with this. We'll buff ourselves up, do a little bit of damage, dodge out of that a little bit. And you can see, in terms of boxing, a Neath is not going to outbox you. A Loki might. Again, might. It's very for him. And then that ultimate, she hits that threshold, and then you just pop her, and then you can go for it again. So it's very important that you can actually double trigger that ultimate. So the basic combo that I recommend would be that you start off with this, and you could use your dash to cover the gaps. So in terms of, yeah, let's do this. In terms of combo, it'd be something like dash in, hit him with this, and just boom, bash him in the face. And then who's to say your teammates aren't right behind you, you know, helping you out here, so you can just pop them right open with your ultimate, which is important. So you really want to get that ultimate off. You don't want to make use of it. But if you don't, it's not a big deal. So all right. Now I'm gonna go over. Well, first I want to do a quick synopsis of him, just a bit, maybe a minute of pros and cons sort of thing. So obviously he's got a lot of damage, a lot of movement speed, but you can also build him the opposite, so he also has a lot of protections and health, which is very good. Like his passive allows him, not allows him, but actually straight up permits him, you know, almost verbally, hey, you can you can do whatever you want, basically. If you want to be a damage god, you can be a damage god. If you want to be a tank, you can be a tank. And that's very cool. That's what's very, very cool about him. He has pretty decent sustain. If you build Shield of Regrowth, Mail of Renewal, which we'll go over build options, like I said. This combo with the abilities and the buff, it's good. Especially if you hit an execute while the buff is up, you can heal back almost your entire health. So that's very important. The execute alone makes him very powerful, gives him a lot of presence, so keep that in mind when you're playing as him. Keep in mind that your ultimate is important and that you don't want to just throw it at anyone. Just because someone's at 30% health doesn't necessarily mean you should ult as Achilles, especially if you're putting yourself in danger or your teammates in danger. If you're leaving your little third of health Neath left over back there as you charge away and do whatever the hell you want, you might get flamed because your team might not be very happy with you. So, alright, so let's go through my first recommended build, and this is a very basic build. You can start with Warrior's Blessing. I find Attacker's Blessing to work too when I try to play as more of a damage-oriented Achilles, but that's just because I like to meme. Specialist is good. If you're trying to meme, once again, but we don't worry about that right now. So I typically go with Warrior Tabby to start with, you know, physical power, movement speed, very basic, and then especially Warrior Tabby early game, then that gives you the chance to really start off, I guess, on the right foot with your protections reduced. If you want, you can have protections reduced and your movement speed, and then you can also have Warrior Tabby that you start with. there are other options, of course. So then we go into the shields. I usually like to put Gladiator Shield as my second item because of the cooldown reduction, and when you hit an enemy god, you are healed for 2.5% of health and magicka. So that's pretty awesome. Triggers once per ability, so not OP, you know. Alright, cool. I didn't think you'd hit me. Just wanted to see. So with this item, I healed for a good amount beforehand, but now, yeah, I heal for quite a bit more. I wouldn't say double, but it's borderline double of what I was healing before. And then also with the increased power, if I were to run back over there, well, then I would get even more health back because I'm doing more damage. So you're getting a percent of the damage that you do return back to you, and then with Gladiator's Shield, your abilities also give you back health and mana. So, and this is a once per life passive on this item, or at least that's how it's supposed to be. So the next item I like to use on Achilles, and this is my main sort of, I use this build in Siege, I use this build in Arena. It's a very good concept build, Hide of Urchin, because you're going to get that mana, additional health, and then you're going to get both physical and magical protections, because especially in Arena, you're getting a mix of all damage types, and you need to be prepared for anything. So then you can also get your stacks, and you get your stacks on kills or assists, and then from those kills you get a health shield that gains stacks additionally. Hide of the Urchin is actually really annoying, especially when you're playing as a tank, because you go in and you kill the hell out of an enemy and blah blah blah, this guy just died, and then boom, I got stacks, and I get 7 stacks, and then suddenly I have this shield, and I've got my armor on, and well, I built Stone of Gaia, and eventually you're unstoppable. You can snowball very hard if they let you. So next I like to grab Pestilence, very basic item, just anti-heal, especially in a situation with someone like Neath. Neath has a lot of native lifesteal, and Neath players like to build lifesteal. Things like Bloodforge, very good on Neath, so you're going to want anti-heal, especially in Conquest, especially in Joust, just in the game in general. People like to build lifesteal, they like to heal back up, so keep that in mind. Alright, additionally, I would say my next choice could be a little controversial, but it makes sense once you read it. So, enemies that hit you with a basic attack have their movement speed and attack speed reduced by 8%. It stacks up to 3 times, and can stack with other slows. If you can't see why that's good on Achilles, can I just direct your attention to one number on your keyboard? Yes, so if you want to ruin people's lives, like forever, just you grab Midgardian Mail and you get ready to make them hate their lives. That's about it. It's that simple. It's just good on him. It is very, very good on him. The next thing I like to build is I'll go either Mantle or Spirit Robe. Mantle is a lot less necessary because it's giving you that CC immunity, which you don't necessarily even need as him because he's got CC reduction in his buff. If you want to, though, feel free. Like, there's nothing stopping you from grabbing Mantle of Discord. It's got cooldown reduction just like this, but I'm looking at this CCR in Spirit Robe and I'm saying, well, he has CCR built into his 2, and he has CCR built into this item that I'm getting. Why would I not want more? So all of this build kind of wraps together in a nice neat little package. You could use this build in Joust, you could use this build in Conquest. I can confirm both of those because I've done both. I have not played Achilles in Clash, so I can't speak for Clash, but definitely Conquest, definitely Joust. I'm sure it would work in Arena. Most things you can make work in Arena. It's all about counter building. That's all Arena's about. So when you come down to it, you want to be doing a good mix of damage and tanking. So it's just how he is. And then you can see I've got my 15-second cooldown on my Q, my 1. I've knocked that all the way down to about, what was it, 6 seconds, 7 seconds? 12 seconds? Alright, well, it seems a lot faster when you're doing other things. So we've gotten that out of the way. This is your basic build. This is your bread and butter. In terms of relics, I mean, it's all about needs. Assault, obviously you want to grab Medcloak, just because if you don't grab Medcloak in Assault, you're probably not ready for long term. Phantom Veil is situational. Very, very situational. I think there's 2 gods in the game that really require it, and that would be Odin and Cabrakan, that quote-unquote require you get Phantom Veil. Shell is always a good choice, always. I can't think of a time when... Yeah, I mean, Shell is just good. I usually start with Puri, just because, especially in Arena, because people like to pile on CC and then ult spam. In Conquest, people like to chase you down and murder your face, so you want to go with Purification Beads or Heavenly Wings. And if you're really good at juking, Blink Rune. Blink is still one of the best relics in the game, and if you want to try and change my mind, you are free to try, but I do not think you will. Aegis, if you get Aegis on Achilles, you are actually a weenie. You are a little small baby child. You don't get Aegis on Achilles. Use his relic slots to kill people. Use his relic slots to give you a benefit, okay? Do not waste your relic slot on Aegis for Achilles, because he's tanky, and if he dies, it's okay. If you die in this game, it's okay. Alright? Don't go dying on purpose, obviously, but don't be afraid to do so. So, seriously, just don't build Aegis on tanks, dude. It's such a waste. You could have Blink or Sprint or Meditation, Shell, even Bracer. You could have something that will help your team. Cursed Ankh, even. So build those items that will help your team. And this is a support role, you know? This is what Achilles is meant for. He's meant for really putting the beat down on enemies, slowing them down, harassing the hell out of them, hurting them, stunning them. That's Achilles' job. Of course, he's also got the execute, but the execute isn't, you know, the damage isn't his entirety. That's not the important part about Achilles. Achilles is about getting in the fight and staying in the fight, and that's what you want to do. So, in regards to a damage build, kind of going back on what I was just talking about, I really like to build cooldowns on him. So a good old breastplate plus Jotun's Wrath, and then I love doing Hydra's Lament because it's retarded. You can also go with Heartseeker, but I don't recommend it because it's kind of stupid to put it on him. Though Frostbound Hammer is always a good one as well. Usually I would start a build off like this. Since it's sort of a meme type build, I would start it off with Mage's Blessing or something, just because that makes more sense to me. So yeah, Mage's Blessing would be that's how I would start this meme of build. So now I'm a lot less tanky. Neith is going to do more damage to me, but I'm also going to do more damage to Neith. You can already see my basics alone are actually doing a lot of damage, and she's executable. And it's that simple. So now you've seen your hybrid build, you've seen your damage build. Achilles, obviously you want to turn off the armor when you do something like that. So I've shown you both. Now I want to demonstrate the secondary build that I like to use, which would be the tanky build. This right here, Reinforced Greaves, definitely not necessary, but if you're looking at the actual added stats of this item, you get CCR and movement speed. What do you get when you use his buff and from his passive? You get CCR and movement speed. So, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. So then you want to follow up with High Diversion. Once again, this is just a good item for Achilles. It just fits him overall. Provides 10% of 100 health plus 5 per level. Like, come on, you'd have to be... You have to be a next level of oblivious to not use this thing. I'm just going to be honest. Like, this is an Achilles item. Pestilence, I will admit, can be situational, but you can also get Bulwark. I haven't played with Talisman enough to know whether or not you should actually go with it. The passive is kind of weak. But you get plus 300 health and 60 magic protection. So if you really want to go with that, you can. If you want to go for a heal myself and never die sort of Achilles, you could do something like this. This makes me think of Shock, because in my Shock guide I'll show you guys that you can't kill Shock Hercules either. Look at my health, by the way. Max health usually maxes at around 2k. I'm about 4k right now because of all this increases. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to let this Neith wail on me for a minute. Go ahead and hit me up, babe. And you see my damage is only about half. I still have quite a bit of damage. You can see the stacks building in my Reinforced Greaves. So now I'm at full resistance. And she's just going to wail on me, and I want my health back. So I'm going to do so. And it's an overtime thing. So you can see even as she damages me, I'm healing back. and then I can get my buff back up, and I can get a bunch of health back again. I could probably stand here for about 2 to 3 minutes before she actually successfully kills me. Or I can just kill her, I guess. I don't really know. Oh, you can also notice that you can't trigger Achilles' ult early. You can't quick cancel it. You can't trigger it early to do less damage. Achilles' ult will go through the whole wind-up before it fires off. So keep that in mind. When you are using his ultimate, that wind-up is always there, and there's no way to skip it or cancel it once you press 4. So be very careful. I actually recommend using his ultimate and putting it on normal casting. That way you can walk around like this, and you have to click to confirm, yes, I do. I definitely want to use my ultimate. Because if you don't... well, if you don't, you're going to regret it, basically. All in all, that's... I mean, for the most part, that's what I wanted to cover for Achilles. I will say, besides all the CCR that you get, this buff doesn't last very long, and no matter how you build, CC is going to get you. It's really going to get you, and you're going to be slow. If you build a tanky Achilles, it's going to slow you down. If you build a power Achilles, you're going to be fast, but you're going to be a little bit squishier than you should be. And those things are important to keep in mind. So... personally, I prefer to do the balanced build between offense and defense, so you can take your shirt off, go do more damage, put your shirt back on when you see that you need to tank more. It's dependent on what your team needs, so make sure you are acknowledging what your team actually needs. Let's say solo role, you're going to want to have the armor on. Yeah, I would say keep the armor on early game, and then late game, if you really want to, you could take it off. Unless you're a tricky guy, you want to get movement speed, you want to run circles around your enemy as Achilles, you're free to do that as well. No one's going to stop you. If you get good at it, good for you, that's awesome. For jungle, you are going to want to go with a damage Achilles. You're going to want to do movement speed items and stuff like that. You're going to want to go kind of ham there. Don't you dare buy a single crit item on Achilles. If you do, I hope the FBI storms your house and arrests you, because that's not okay. Don't do that. You're going to hurt someone. Probably yourself. Do not build crit on Achilles. I swear to God, don't do it. You're going to hate yourself if you do. It's very tempting. So I'm going to just throw in a few more tips that I've been given here. It's very tempting to go in without your shirt, do a bunch of damage, you know, really mess those enemies up, man. Ooh, give them what for, man. Yeah, just show them who's boss. Chill. Like, actually chill. Achilles is best played tank. You have options, but he really is best played tank. When you're picking Achilles in God selection, people are expecting you to be a tank. It's just the way that it is. If you're not tanking, at least let your team know that you're not going to be doing that. And keep in mind that even if you're doing a damage Achilles, you are still a support. Okay? Which leads me to a second point is, your job is not to dive after kills. Your job is not to, you know, execute at every situation and every opportunity you get. Okay? Like I said before, hold on to your ultimate. You want to use it when the time is right, not when the time feels right. Or when you say, wow, I could really use another kill. You really couldn't. Alright? An assist is almost as beneficial as a kill. You can ask Ganesh. He knows. Alright? Again, you want to start with Radiant Glory. Combat dodge is best used for closing the gaps. And if you can, you know, hit combat dodge again, that's fantastic. Shield of Achilles is very good to follow up from combat dodge. And then if they're gone, in terms of health, because you want to get your basic attacks in, but if their health is gone and you have an execution and the team is with you, go ahead. Alright? But do not, I really need to iterate this, do not execute at every chance you get, because you're going to waste your time and your team's time, you're going to miss ults and you're going to die. And your team doesn't want you to die. Alright? I guess, to sum it up, you have a very versatile kit, you have a lot of options. you have a lot of boxing potential, and I would prefer that be the situation used. You can also apply damage while you're pretty much indestructible, alright? So, basically, Achilles is invincible as long as you don't play like an idiot. And Bob Ross is at my feet right here. He's smiling. He's saying, I just gave y'all some good information, you know. I just gave you what you need to know. This is your medicine right here. This is bread and butter of Achilles, alright? You just, you know, boom, buff that up, boom, hit him in the face, shield of Achilles, yeah, screw him up, man. That's all you need to know, though. Achilles is simple, alright? So, when it comes to nuances, just keep in mind Radiant Glory first. Before anything else, Radiant Glory. Combat dodge, close the gap, open the gap, whatever you need to do. Shield of Achilles, make them pay for what they've done. And then you've got your ultimate for wrapping up a team fight. Wrapping up a team fight, not a one-on-one. I really don't recommend using your ult on one-on-ones. And don't forget that if they don't know that it's down or up, you are scary because you have an execute, so the enemies are automatically going to be wary of you. So just be prepared to have some presence in the battlefield. Try to die as little as you can so that you can be even more threatening to them. And that's all I've really got for Achilles. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a rating or a comment down below. Let me know how I'm doing. And I will see you guys in the next video.